Hello to all the viewers tuning in to Mr. Twilight. Welcome to another episode in the series, Nighttime Horror Stories. Today, we're diving into a truly chilling and haunting topic. 3 real horror stories about living with strangers. Living with a roommate or sharing a place with someone might sound ordinary at first, but when night falls, mysteries and bizarre things slowly come to light. In today's 3 stories, each victim comes from a different background. What they all have in common is the harrowing experience of being haunted by the very person they lived with, or more precisely, by something merely pretending to be human. Prepare yourself, because your roommate could be anyone or anything. Now, let's begin with the first story. Story 1. The Ghost in the Dorm Room. Julie was lying on her top bunk bed in the university dorm at 2 a.m., her mind foggy with exhaustion after a long day of classes. The faint glow of the night light cast shadows on the ceiling. Suddenly, the bed beneath her creaked strangely, as if someone was tossing and turning restlessly. She whispered, "Chris, are you still awake?" There was no reply. The creaking grew louder. It now sounded like fingernails scraping against wood. Curious and uneasy, Julie peeked through the small gap between the bed frame and her mattress, trying to see below. To her horror, a pale face with hollow black eyes emerged from the darkness, staring straight up at her with a twisted grin. This wasn't her roommate Chris. It was something wearing his face. For a brief moment, Julie froze, her heart pounding like a drum. The thing reached its bony hand to grip the edge of the bed, then began to crawl up. Its neck jerked unnaturally, and its empty eyes seemed to pull at her very soul. Julie tried to scream, but her voice caught in her throat. Trapped. That night became a nightmare Julie would never forget. The background. Julie was a freshman at a public university in Pennsylvania. She had only been living in the dorm for 2 months and was initially excited about finally experiencing student life. Her roommate, Chris, was a quiet person who liked reading and listening to music alone. At first, Chris seemed harmless. The only odd thing was his habit of staying up late. But by the 4th week, things began to change. Julie started hearing faint moaning sounds at night coming from Chris's bed. At first, she thought he was snoring or talking in his sleep, but the noises were darker, like choking sobs or whispered conversations with someone unseen. One night, she woke up to find Chris standing motionless in the middle of the room, staring wide-eyed into the mirror on the desk. Terrified, she asked, "What are you doing, Chris?" But he only breathed heavily, then silently returned to bed without explanation. The terrifying encounter. The worst night came on a Saturday, after Julie returned late from a party. The room was pitch black, so she quietly climbed into her bed. The clock read 2:10 a.m. Just as she began to drift off, the eerie creaking returned from below. Peeking down, Julie saw that horrifying face again, crawling up toward her. It resembled Chris, but its skin was ghostly pale, its eyes hollow, and its mouth stretched unnaturally wide. It hissed in a shrill voice, unlike Chris's, "Jolie, I can't sleep," followed by a sinister grin. That's when Julie realized this wasn't her roommate anymore. Or perhaps Chris had been possessed by something far worse. Frozen with fear, she pressed herself against the farthest corner of her bed as the thing climbed higher, its cold fingers clawing at the mattress. Suddenly, the dorm's fire alarm blared loudly, slicing through the dreadful silence. Emergency lights flickered on. Students rushed through the hallway, banging on doors to wake anyone still asleep. The creature stopped, turning its head sharply toward the window, distracted. Seizing the moment, Julie screamed, leapt from her bed, and bolted out the door. The aftermath. In shock, Julie told the dorm supervisor everything she had witnessed. When the staff checked the room, they found Chris curled up beneath the bed, drenched in sweat, whispering over and over, "I'm sorry, don't hurt her." Chris was taken to the campus medical center, where he became hysterical, half conscious, mumbling incoherent words. Julie moved temporarily to another room. Traumatized, she suffered emotional distress for weeks. Doctors later diagnosed Chris with either severe depression or schizophrenia. However, some students in the dorm whispered rumors that Chris had previously dabbled in occult rituals, possibly summoning a spirit that eventually possessed him. After hearing that Chris had been admitted to a psychiatric hospital, Julie requested to live off campus. Even now, she remains haunted by the image of Chris crawling toward her with hollow eyes and a twisted smile, a chilling reminder that just because share a room with someone doesn't mean therein does you share entirely. Story 2. The Creepy Guy in the Downtown Apartment. Here comes another chilling chapter in our horror journey. No need to wait any longer. Let's dive into the second story and uncover the mysteries that await. Kevin is the main character this time. It was 11 p.m. when he stepped warily out of the elevator onto the 10th floor of a luxury high-rise in Manhattan. As he approached his apartment, he noticed something odd. The door was slightly ajar. Did Adam go out and forget to lock up? Kevin wondered. He walked quickly toward the door. As he reached for the handle, he caught a glimpse through the narrow opening and froze. Floating in the middle of the living room was a figure, suspended over a meter above the floor, as if gravity didn't apply to it. Kevin gasped and shouted, "Oh my God!" then shoved the door open. At that exact moment, the hallway motion light flickered on, revealing the figure's face. It was his roommate Adam. But something was terribly wrong. Adam's eyes glowed bright red, and his tongue writhed unnaturally, split at the tip like a snake's. That was when Kevin realized he wasn't living with just a regular person. He was sharing space with a being, or something, possessing terrifying powers, and things were spiraling out of control. A seemingly normal roommate, Kevin had found Adam through an online roommate service. Adam worked in finance and seemed friendly enough, even making coffee for Kevin now and then. For nearly 2 months, everything went smoothly. Nothing seemed off, until that night. At first, Kevin thought Adam was trying to harm himself. He screamed and rushed in, only to realize Adam wasn't hanging. He was floating. No rope, no support. He just hovered in midair. Then, as Kevin stood frozen with fear, Adam dropped to the floor. The snake-like tongue retracted, and he hissed, "Don't look at me." He crawled to his room and slammed the door shut. Kevin's growing terror. Panicked, Kevin ran to his room, locked the door, and scrambled through his bag to find his phone. When he finally made the call, he whispered, "My roommate is acting strange. He might be on drugs or something. Please send someone." Security responded quickly, but when they arrived, Adam appeared completely normal. No red eyes, no eerie voice, calm and polite. "Sorry," he said with a smile. "I've just been tired lately. I'm okay now." The guards looked suspiciously at Kevin, as if he were the one acting erratic, with no evidence of danger. They left. Kevin began to doubt himself. Maybe he was just exhausted and imagining things. But the strange events didn't stop. Unsettling behavior. In the following days, Kevin heard strange mutterings from Adam's room at night, and the sound of metal scraping across the floor. Sometimes, Kevin saw Adam sleepwalking, gliding through the apartment with his eyes closed, never bumping into anything, as if guided by something unseen. One night, Kevin awoke with a chill down his spine. Turning slightly, he saw Adam standing beside his bed, clutching a gleaming kitchen knife. Shocked, Kevin shouted, "Adam, what are you doing?" Adam didn't answer. He simply stepped back, looking dazed, then walked out. Kevin jumped up and followed him, but by the time he reached the living room, Adam had vanished. The apartment was dark. The front door and windows were still locked. Shaken, Kevin called building management again. Security came once more, but found Adam fast asleep in his bed and the knife back in its place. Again, no one believed Kevin. He started recording video as proof, but something always went wrong. His phone battery would suddenly die, or the footage would be corrupted. A final confrontation Things hit their peak when Kevin saw Adam floating again, this time in total darkness, arms extended, head hanging low, wisps of gray smoke curled near his ears, like some sinister ritual was underway. When Adam noticed Kevin staring, he snapped his head up, his eyes flared red, and his split tongue flicked as he let out a chilling, inhuman sound. Then lunged forward. Kevin ran. He stumbled at the door, barely making it to the elevator, all the while glancing back in terror. The noise had stopped, swallowed by silence. From the half-open apartment door, a pale hand reached out and slowly pulled the door shut, as if waiting for the next victim to fall into the trap. The aftermath. Kevin spent that night in a hotel, too frightened to return. The next morning, he cancelled the lease, willingly forfeiting his deposit. No one knows whether this was all an elaborate trick, or whether Adam was truly something else. Kevin never saw him again, but the memory of those red hate-filled eyes still sends shivers down his spine. Story 3. The Strange Girl in the Quiet Suburban House. This final story takes place in a peaceful suburban neighborhood where charming houses line the streets and colorful gardens peek out from every yard. Valerie was a young woman who had recently transferred jobs to a suburb in Washington state. With her tight budget, she had no choice but to share a house with another girl. At first, it didn't seem so bad, but one evening, while sitting alone in the living room, Valerie heard strange knocking sounds, soft but deliberate. Looking around, she realized she was the only one home. Suddenly, an eerie, high-pitched singing voice floated down from the upper floor, a dark, unsettling melody. As she climbed the stairs, Valerie noticed the lights in Sophia's room flickering wildly, as if someone was playing with the switch. She cautiously turned the doorknob, and the door creaked open. In the flickering light, she saw Sophia sitting on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest, her long hair covering most of her face. But the most terrifying part wasn't Sophia's posture. It was her shadow on the wall. The shadow twisted, swayed unnaturally, then abruptly rotated 180 degrees, moving in the opposite direction of Sophia's real body. Valerie held her breath in terror, and that was only the beginning of the nightmare of living with this roommate, the mysterious housemate. The house was about a 30-minute drive from downtown. Valerie's roommate, Sophia, worked part-time at a flower shop. She was quiet, gentle, and kept to herself. Their schedules rarely overlapped, except for the occasional brief exchange in the kitchen, where Sophia always smiled softly. But one night, while Valerie was watching TV, she heard strange, heavy footsteps from upstairs, like someone searching frantically for something. Thinking Sophia might need help, Valerie went upstairs. The door to Sophia's room was closed, but inside, someone was chanting in an unfamiliar language. Worried, Valerie knocked. "Sophia, are you okay?" The chanting stopped instantly. Silence. Feeling uneasy, she went back downstairs, increasingly disturbing signs. The following night, Valerie heard singing again, this time clearer and even stranger. Pressing her ear to Sophia's door, she heard that same foreign language. But what unsettled her most was the sound of a second voice, cackling eerily from within the room. Too frightened to intervene, she returned to her room. Then came the worst night. Entering her room, Valerie was horrified to find Sophia sitting on the floor, eyes rolled back, while her shadow writhed on the wall, moving independently as if possessed. Sophia suddenly looked up, her eyes blood red, and uttered in a deep, hollow voice, "Valerie, did you come here to die with me?" A chill swept through the room. The lights flickered, then went out completely, plunging the house into darkness. Terrified, Valerie bolted from the room. Dark rituals and sinister discoveries. From that night on, Valerie lived in fear. Sophia acted completely normal during the day, but at night, she transformed into something else. Valerie noticed bizarre occurrences, food in the fridge rotting within hours, black handprints appearing on the bathroom mirror at midnight, and whispers echoing through dark hallways. Determined to uncover the truth, Valerie secretly peeked into Sophia's room while she was away. To her shock, she found a small altar surrounded by white candles, strange symbols drawn in red ink. Encircled a photograph, a picture of Valerie herself. Her heart sank when she saw that the photo's eyes had been stabbed out. Sophia was performing some kind of dark ritual, targeting her. A final confrontation. That night, Valerie confronted Sophia, threatening to call the police. But Sophia remained eerily calm. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said with a sweet smile. "Maybe you're just tired, imagining things, feeling helpless, and on the verge of madness." Valerie stayed vigilant, researching curses and sacrificial rituals online. Then came the terrifying climax. During a stormy night, as Valerie slept, her bedroom door slowly creaked open. Lightning from outside illuminated Sophia standing there, her hands covered in a thick, dark red substance. Sophia sneered, her voice echoing unnaturally, "It's time for the sacrifice." Valerie, screaming, Valerie grabbed her phone. As lightning flashed again, she saw something unthinkable. Sophia's shadow crawling across the wall toward her, while her physical body stood still. Panicking, Valerie grabbed a small plaster statue from her bedside table, hurled it at Sophia, and fled the house barefoot into the cold, pouring rain. She ran until she encountered a neighbor returning from work. Sobbing uncontrollably, she told him everything before fainting. The aftermath: when the police arrived, Sophia was gone. Her bedroom window was wide open, but what they found confirmed Valerie's worst fears. The strange altar, the nearly burned out candles, and her defaced photograph. Valerie was refunded her deposit and left the house for good. To this day, she has no idea who or what Sophia really was, or what dark cult she might have belonged to. Perhaps Valerie was simply unlucky enough to become the target of a malevolent force beyond human comprehension. And that brings us to the end of our chilling journey through 3 terrifying true stories about horrifying roommates. Each case proves one unsettling truth: living with someone doesn't guarantee safety. The person in the next room, the one sleeping on the bunk below, or the girl sharing your house, they could all be hiding a terrifying secret. We never truly know everything about the person we call a roommate. I hope these stories gave you something to think about and maybe sent a shiver down your spine. Perhaps you should be a little more cautious the next time you move in with a stranger. After all, we can never be completely sure that we're safe. Feel free to share your thoughts or any horrifying roommate experiences you've had in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this spooky topic, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next creepy stories coming your way.